To put it as simply as possible, permaculture is a philosophy for humans living in harmony with nature. These days, human technology has been advancing so rapidly, and in general, it's been good for people. We have advanced medical care, we have an abundance of food in general, an abundance of resources to support our needs, and but also with this increase in human technology, we've started to stray farther and farther away from the ways of nature or the ways of our ancestors, that kind of thing. I think many of us are starting to see where this can have its drawbacks as well, because people are becoming increasingly disconnected from nature. We're relying too much on this system that isn't completely working for all of us. And as many of us are aware, our way of life sometimes harms the earth that we rely on so heavily. So that's where permaculture comes in, living in harmony with nature. And I truly believe that humans and nature are good for each other. We're not parasites on this planet, but we're really meant to be here. So let's get into that. Permaculture isn't necessarily a new practice, but it's kind of a more recent term for a way of life that's existed for a longer time from our ancestors and that kind of thing. But I feel like this term really well encompasses what I believe in and what I think can help humanity in the future. Permaculture has three main ethics that help to define it, and these ethics are very simple. It's people care, earth care, and fair share. And that's really as simple as it sounds. We want to take care of this earth that supports us because we rely on it so heavily, and really this earth is all we got. We want to take care of people. That's something that's deeply part of who we are as humans, is we need to take care of ourselves and others. And then the last one being fair share, in being that if there's a surplus of resources, this should be distributed so that everyone can benefit from these resources, so that a small group or one person doesn't hoard these resources in a way. And as of recently, the fair share thing definitely maybe takes on a new meaning for a lot of people with this new narrative about billionaires and the wealth concentration and inequality. And I can see how that can get political, but don't let that turn you away from this message too quickly. Just keep on listening, because I'm not going to make this political or anything like that. I just want to talk about what this means and how it can really help us as humans to live a better life, really. That's what it's all about. So how about some concrete examples? What are some things that people might do to live a permaculture lifestyle? I'll just throw out some examples. One might be rainwater harvesting. This is the act of directing rainwater so that it can be used more efficiently and used to its fullest potential. As an example of how our systems these days work, in the suburbs often, or in cities, rainwater is directed off of roofs and into storm drains. The goal is to get the rainwater away as quickly as possible because it's seen as a nuisance or something that's annoying. So we need to drain the water into gutters, drain it to the street as quickly as possible, and drain it out of the city as quickly as possible into the river or lake or wherever that may be. But in a permaculture way of thinking about it, you'll think, how can we make this rainwater useful before it leaves the property or the city? And that's where rainwater harvesting would come in. It's the act of shaping the earth in such a way that the rainwater will stay where the plants are that need water. where the rainwater will flow to multiple plants before it leaves your property, where the rainwater will be directed into basins where it will absorb into the soil instead of just flowing away. And when you do these things, the same water gets more uses than just one. As another example, something that many people are familiar with is compost. In today's society, when we have food scraps, whether that's a banana peel, an eggshell, the leaves that fell in your driveway that you're throwing away, all these things can be recycled into compost, which is such a magical material because compost is one of the best things you can give to a plant to help it grow. It's such a beautiful, easy way to recycle these resources. But instead, we send them to the landfill where they're piled up in large piles where they rot without access to oxygen and release methane into the atmosphere. So it's just simple things like this. It's like, why are we sending our banana peels to the landfill to rot instead of composting them in a controlled system where they can be returned to plants, where they can be turned into plant nutrients? So I'm hoping you're starting to get an idea here of what permaculture is. It's just simply finding the way to serve human needs that also serves the needs of the earth, if that makes sense. So it's nothing crazy. It's really just a simple system, a design philosophy that could really help all of us. Permaculture requires thinking about things in a different way, in more of a circular way, where when we think about resources, when we think about waste that we need to get rid of, we need to think about how we can create systems that have the least amount of inputs, as in requiring the least amount of added materials and the least amount of waste possible. So, as another example, we could talk about factory farming, because factory farming, or these large farms, that's how most of us get our food from. And at this point, like I said, there's a lot of people on this planet, and that's turned out to be the most cost-effective way we found to feed all these people, right? But the hidden cost of factory farming is that it requires massive amount of inputs. These are fertilizers that we need to mine from the other side of the world that need to be added to the soil. And this type of farming actually degrades the soil that it's in. And over time, the quality of the soil gets worse and worse. And a lot of these farms ignore the quality of the soil completely. It's basically just a medium to hold the plant. And all of the nutrients come from fertilizers that are shipped across the world, heavily processed, and that kind of thing. If you're someone who gardens or likes to garden, you have probably learned about building soil, right? How when we add compost and leaves, and when we add the right plants to our soil, it becomes enriched with more nutrients, with more life, because soil is something that's alive. It's full of bacteria and fungi and worms and insects. And all of these creatures working together actually increase the amount of nutrients in our soil and increase the health of the soil. When we garden in a permaculture way, we're trying to reduce the amount of inputs or fertilizer that we have to ship from across the world. And we're also trying to reduce the amount of waste that we have, which would mean recycling plants into compost or not destroying the soil that we're working with. Permaculture, this abstract idea or weird word that you've never heard of, is something that can help you in your life live more connected with nature, which will benefit you, benefit people around you, benefit future generations. It's really a system aimed towards the greatest amount of good possible, if that makes sense. So it's not any kind of woo-woo, religious kind of weird thing. It's not any kind of cult. It's not any kind of political thing at all. It's about humans and nature living in the best way possible. And trying to design things in a way that's holistic and intuitive that will help us to live better. That's really what it is. So if this piques your interest at all, I am going to make more videos diving into specific aspects of permaculture, and also just more videos of my perspectives and opinions on life. I'm getting pretty cold out here and it's starting to get pretty dark. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this gave you a basic idea of what permaculture is. If you want to learn more, just Google it. Okay, last thing. I know I keep saying this, but permaculture has 12 design principles that kind of guide how we want to design things to achieve these ethics. So if you're interested, just Google those. You can learn a bit more. Just search what is permaculture on YouTube and learn a bit more about it, because it's really good stuff. I'm getting really cold. You might be able to tell by my voice, but if you like this stuff, subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.